Hi, hello, it is me, your least favorite Drag Race content creator, Jer, here with part 2 of an ongoing series that was requested per a video that I posted the other day, reshuffling all of the All-Star seasons. This video, we are going to be tackling All-Stars 2 according to my judging preferences. Remember that this universe is fake. There is actually no bearing on this universe to real life. So if you don't like it, that's okay. Just click out of the video. It wasn't made for you. Without too much exposition, let's jump into this one. So we are tackling All-Stars 2. I'm going to be judging based off my own preferences. If you don't like that, go talk to a professional or something, because I'm not a punching bag to fume at because you lack proper upbringing. I mentioned in the last video who I would have cast if I wasn't using the predefined roster. So for this season's theme, I would have pulled in Carmen Carrera if she would have said yes. I don't know if she would have. And I would also ask Kenya Michaels because they both made top 6 in a return format. And I think it would have been really fun to watch their dynamics within this group. I also have a preference for much beefier all-star seasons, so the more queens, the better. My predictions on who I think production would push and get a really favorable edit would be obviously Alaska. I think that she was always destined to make it to top 3 for producers. I think that Dela would have gotten a really favorable edit. And I think that Detox and Katya would have also gotten a favorable run. So starting out in the All-Star talent show Extravaganza. This particular season is labeled specifically as a talent show. So I am going to be making my judgments for this episode on talent, not necessarily on entertainment. Another thing to note is that we've seen talent shows from each one of these queens, but it's hard to say that if in the same universe together, they would have done those same exact talent shows from other All-Stars. And we don't necessarily know what they would have brought, considering that this is the very first talent show. So I'm going to just assume that they would have done the exact same thing as whatever they did on their respective All-Star seasons. As my final editor's note for this video, I don't think it's productive at all for me to speak on behalf of these queens. Anytime I've ever done so where I say, I think that they would have done this for X reason, I get people that are very upset and angry. So taking those notes, I'm not going to speak for any of them at all. I will be changing the All-Stars format going forward at this point. I'm going to choose my favorite of the night, give them the win, and choose a bottom 2. And from there, determine how they would lip sync against each other based off of how I've seen them perform in other episodes or maybe off the show. And then choose who I think would do better than the other. If this is not your style video and you want to see a exact retelling of the original season, you want to see how it would go in the eyes of the queens, and you want me to psychically get into their heads to tell you exactly who they would have sent home, that's not going to be this video. So once again, because this is specifically labeled as a talent show and not a variety show, I am calling the winner as someone who exhibited a talent in their show and made me smile in some way, shape, or form. And that would be Alaska with singing. Katya for me was also really high, with Ginger also probably being high. I love Dela's performance and it was really funny. And I think in a universe where RuPaul was judging this, Dela would be top 2. Based on what we saw in All-Stars 4, I did not like what Manila or Latrice did at all for their shows. So for me, they're the bottoms. I'm sorry if you hate that. I've also decided that I'm not going to be changing any of the lip syncs that have shown up in this series. So Shake It Off is the very first one, which is kind of weird for these two. I see it more going towards Latrice, going with a humorous performance maybe, and she has a little more musicality to the way that she moves on stage compared to Manila, who sometimes relies on stiff body humor to get a joke across. And I don't know if I see this going well for her. So she surprisingly is the very first one out. Prepare to be gagged because I don't think you're ready for the rest of this season. So now let's get into the All-Stars Snatch Game. We have no one that's going to be dropping out this episode. I wonder if Michelle would have gone in as hard since Adore wasn't there. Maybe she wouldn't have felt a need to be so domineering and assertive that very first episode with what she hated. I do wonder if that would change her character arc in the All-Stars series, and maybe she wouldn't be as soft as she is now. I think the only weaker performance in this group for Snatch Game would be Jessica, which is Kind of unfortunate because I think she's a very funny queen. And I think that Kennedy was trying to compensate for her extremely funny season 7 Snatch Game, that she really struggled in All Stars 3. And I think she would struggle here too. Latrice also does quite badly in every Snatch Game that she's ever been in. And I see her breaking her character to laugh rather than getting annoyed at Gia. This week, I'm going to be giving the win to Dela, with Alaska and Katya being very high safes. And the bottoms this week are going to be Kennedy and Jessica Wilde. Thinking about Kennedy and Jessica in Le Freak is an interesting mental journey, I won't lie. I'm not sure if Kennedy lip syncs in a camp enough way that she would be able to translate this song to her drag style. Whereas I feel like Jessica doesn't take herself too seriously and could deliver a more consistent performance to this style of song. So Kennedy Davenport is out in Snatch Game. So let's talk Herstory of the World, which is such a fun musical, probably one of the best of the franchise. I would love to see this group in these roles, specifically what Latrice and Dela would turn out. For me, silly quirky me, I did not love Alaska's performance as Eve. And I thought, personally, it was much lower in comparison to Ginger's, which I thought was really good. And even though Ginger wasn't great on the runway, I don't really think Alaska was either. And in Willem and Alaska's podcast, Alaska even said that she was surprised she wasn't in the bottom. She knew almost none of those words, and her performance was a little stiff and lacked energy. I should also mention that I am not speculating on runways, so those are not going to be a factor in these final decisions. I know I just mentioned runway, but that was for the purpose of the original season, not this one. Katya really struggled in this challenge, and you can see the fear in her eyes, and that would land her in the bottom with Alaska for me. Based purely off of the original assignments, I'm thinking that Jessica would have gotten Frida Kahlo, that Adore Cilantro was assigned. She would eat up that role, so I think she's going to be very safe. I think Latrice would maybe get the Cleopatra role, which if you listen to that segment on YouTube, and then imagine Latrice doing that, that is so iconic and so church, so Bible. Latrice would eat that up. I think Dela would probably get the Joan of Arc role, and I think that might be a little bricky since we saw her creme and M, so I don't know if she would be necessarily very high. I don't think it would be bad enough to necessitate bottom though. And I know y'all are gonna meme my ass for putting Katya and Alaska in the bottom together with Latrice winning the challenge, but this is my fantasy universe. The song is Tell It to My Heart, and I see this being a twist of fate type of lip sync for Katya. I think it would be campy while being emotional and powerful, and I think, to be honest, I would prefer her performance over Alaska's, which means that Alaska is out here and I can already hear your keyboards clicking. Unclick them, baby, unclick them. Trust the process. We now move into episode 4, Drag Movie Shequels. This acting challenge will be severely weakened by Alaska not being present, but thankfully Ginger, Latrice, and Dela will carry the other scenes. I see Jessica struggling with the scripted acting challenge, and Alyssa is a very clear bottom in this particular episode. I'm giving the win to Dela, who I think would get the same role that Alaska got, because that was just a really strong role, and Dela's a great actress. I am going to put Jessica in the bottom with Alyssa. Alyssa for very obvious reasons, and Jessica because I think she would struggle. And I don't know if she would quite get some of these references. The lip sync song has got to be real, and I see Jessica getting kind of curb stomped by Alyssa, unfortunately, which means that our golden shower queen is now out of the competition. So normally this next episode would be the Ru Turn Queen week. However, we did not have that walkout, so things are not getting pushed forward in the same way. So instead of that stand-up challenge where everyone comes back, we are going to be pivoting to Drag Fish Tank, just for continuity purposes. So from the original episode, I thought Alyssa branded herself the best. In fact, I thought that she should have won that particular challenge. Alyssa's whole point of view is go, 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 energy drinks. And at the time, she was always talking about her go-go juice. So this made the most sense. This was not only a branding challenge, but it was also a point of sale challenge. You were trying to create something that would get sold at DragCon. And Alyssa's 24-hour energy spinoff would be something that you could easily manufacture and create. Needing FDA licenses and all that, it would not be very hard to create something like this. And I thought she was the best brand. Katya was amazing and I thought her squirt bottle was hilarious, but I enjoyed Alyssa just a little bit more. I'm not sure how Latrice would brand herself. I would love to believe that she would do some type of nut sack or something and use that to pivot and be really funny. I feel like Ginger is a big question mark because I honestly don't know what Ginger's brand is as a drag queen. And I don't know if you can rely on pitching Jesus like how she did in that finale of season 7 lip sync. Detox, in my opinion, was the worst at branding herself. She did that trash can that really did not say who Detox was. And I don't think it was a really great product. It certainly was not DragCon ready. So Detox is the bottom for me. And because I had a big question mark on Ginger on what she would do to brand herself, she's also bottom too. The song this week is Shut Up and Drive. And I'm imagining Detox in this. And all I have to say is, thank you for playing Ginger. It was a treat to imagine you in this season up until now. And that brings us to our top 5, which, as you can imagine, means that we are finally at the Ru turn episode. Finally, it's time for a twist, so let's talk about the pairings. The queens get to choose their partners based on elimination order. Ginger very likely chooses Katya because they're very best friends with a successful podcast together and a Netflix series and a YouTube series. That was shade if you didn't catch it. That's also me being silly, quirky, ha ha hee hee. Jessica is kind of a wild card. Tee-hee pun. I don't know why, but I feel like she would choose Latrice because they have similar dispositions. Alaska, being the very smart cookie that she is, would choose Dela since she's the other funniest queen in the room. I see Kennedy choosing to work with Detox, and that means that Manila is left with Alyssa. So in my opinion, Dela and Alaska are the very clear top 2 funniest people in the room, and they are a shoo-in for the win. Dela having a huge storyline to recover from her flop in season 6's comedy challenge. And I think Alaska is amazing and she would definitely be the one that would return. In my opinion, I don't really see Detox being hilarious with Kennedy, and I don't see Latrice being hilarious in a comedy challenge like this. Therefore, the winners are Alaska and Dela. Alaska gets to return to the competition, and Latrice will be in the bottom with Alyssa. Katya and Ginger were fine in the original challenge and will continue to be fine here. I do think that Detox would be a low placement, but wouldn't break bottom too. The lip sync song is Cherry Bomb, and I want to believe that Latrice would stomp here. But I also see Alyssa doing the absolute most and sending Latrice home. Therefore, Alyssa slides through another episode and makes top 5 once again. So now let's talk family that drags together. This is a makeover challenge, and my only question mark is Dela, who did extremely well in season 6's makeover challenge, so I think that she might also do well here. Alaska did really terrible in the original challenge, and I think that would make even more impact since she literally just came back to the competition. Alyssa wasn't as powerful as I wanted to see her be in the original challenge, and I think the bottoms would be the exact same as they were in the original episode, without Roxy being there. I'm giving the win to Katya this week for her camp-ass makeover, and I think it would be really cool to see these two face off in a lip sync and advocate for themselves since they really couldn't fight the first time around. The lip sync song is Step It Up, and I think Alaska wins by a landslide, meaning that Alyssa is out once again in the makeover challenge. So then that brings us to the finale. Let's discuss some track records. Bendela is the very clear top 2 in this alternate universe, never falling in the bottom, always being really strong, always being consistent in these fake challenges. Because Alaska was eliminated and then returned, I don't see her as a viable winner, and I'm super conflicted between Katya and Detox for the top 2. So in this universe, Bendela is top 2, and I think no matter who goes against her, the season 2 winner is always Bendela in my eyes. And with that, that is the end of All Stars 2. I already feel y'all being mad, so feel free to let your therapist know after you finish binging the other videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.